we've got both ducts coming down, and so we put them on a 45 so it'll look kind of like a nice bay up here. Sometimes you can make something good of running all these systems through the house and come up with something creative to conceal them. So a little update on the house. As you can see, it's still coming along, and walked in and we have got a huge hole for Lucy's swimming pond here. So we have a hole, Lucy's swimming hole, and a bobcat that I hope they're able to actually get out of there and it's not stuck. It looks a little precarious sitting back there. And then on the inside, we've got most of the plumbing and AC in. So I was going to walk you around a little bit with that. That we have decided to replumb the whole house. We took out some cast iron of the old pipes that, you know, those were probably put in the 20s or the 30s, and so they start rusting, and so all that needs to come out, and so we replaced it with drain and vent lines with PVC pipe, and then the water lines with copper. Originally we thought we might go with this tubing, which is called PEX, which is blue for cold and red for hot. But there's starting to be some class action lawsuits and some studies saying since it's plastic, it's leaching chemicals, and so we went back with more of a tried and true, although more expensive, unfortunately, of the copper. And certainly you can see why tubing would be a lot easier to run than them having to use these elbows and this tube and having to put all of these pieces together. There's pros and cons to each, but this from a health perspective seems to be a better solution. You can see you've always got to figure out how the runs are going to come down, and so we originally had this line that you can see coming across the ceiling was actually coming down this wall over here in the kitchen. You can see where those holes were right up there. And I asked them to move it, so now it's coming over and down in that stair hall. In the event we ever want to take this wall out, the option will be there to do it. You can see where this is my bathroom up above, and you can see where we were running the drain lines down, and that's the drain line for the toilet over there. So you really have to be careful in planning all these things and figuring out how it gets through the structure, what wall it runs down, so you don't end up with a lot of fur outs in places you don't want them. This is one of the old cast iron pipes that we took out. So that's what we've now converted to PVC instead of the old cast iron. Came out of there where we've got the PVC coming in as well as the copper. So they took out all the old copper, which had been fixed over the years. So like one size copper was attached to another size copper, which then went back to another size copper, which causes problems for the water flow itself. So this kind of fixed all that. This is going to be the master bedroom. We've got with the great ceiling height. Now we've got the two upper windows as well, where we took one double hung window we had and we have taken it apart, and each piece of the double hung window will go into each one of these. And this will be a little dressing room. And we've got the closet, and then we've got the bathroom, which we've got a big window, and you can see the copper lines coming down here. So everything requires both a drain and a vent. A lot of people don't realize that you have to vent up as well as go down. So this is the drain and the vent for the vanity sink, hot and cold lines, and then you've got the water line for the toilet. There's the drain. They'll have to vent up as well, and then these are the lines coming down for the tub. Again, drain line down, vent line up. We'll go upstairs in a minute and you can see all the AC ducts coming up from out of the attic. And then we've got ducts coming up and then going under the house. And what this is this is actually hard duct that you have to run under a house, and then it's wrapped with insulation. You cannot run flex duct underneath a house here in New Orleans. You can really get a good view right here how they got that duct under the joist but have then strapped it so it's up from the ground, because you don't want it sitting on the ground in case we end up with any water problems. So as you can see here, you've got the systems running together. You can see how the AC duct is run high, and then the copper comes across, and then we've got our plumbing pipe down low. So all these systems need to go in first. Usually AC, they're the biggest, plumbing next, they're a little more small, and then of course electrical wires are the smallest. So the electrical guy is going to start this weekend to getting everything in, because he's kind of got all the smallest wires, so we don't want to get in each other's way, but you definitely have to coordinate all these systems to make sure that they work together. See, we also had to run a big AC duct here, so that works, and so you can see how we cut out the floor. So we're going to make this part of a bookcase, so it'll go away. And then I do think that this is going to become a nice architectural feature here, where we're going to have our stair window, and then we've got both ducts coming down, and so we put them on a 45, so it'll look kind of like a nice bay up here, which I think really worked out. So sometimes you can make something good of running all these systems through the house and come up with something creative to conceal them. And then you can see all the ductwork coming out of the VAV system up there at the top. Originally, we weren't planning on taking this wall vent out, but because of the fact that the ridge beam went into it and then we had no support, you can see where these wood studs are now supporting the new ridge beam and are going through where that big triangle was. So we could no longer use the big triangle unless we changed it to two triangles. Really, the better system for the house was to use a ridge vent on top of the ridge beam instead of these two wall vents, one to this side, one to that side. We finally got the new ridge beam up here in the ceiling, and we've got new collar ties going across. So we took out the joist that you can see cut right there that originally went all the way across the house, and we basically moved the support up to the top. The original ridge beam is just a little tiny thin piece and only carries so much lateral load, so that when we took out the joists that support that lateral load in order to vault up the ceilings, we had to put in a new, more heavy-duty ridge beam, which was accomplished with two LVLs put together. So now we have got new support, and we can start closing everything in and put the new gypsum board on. And we'll talk in subsequent episodes as they're doing it how we're going to keep the hot, humid air moving up around there so that we don't get moisture and water damage. I think we finally got it all figured out, but it did take some doing, and all the systems will be new, which will be great, although a bit more expense that wasn't always planned on. But once you start opening up walls, when you've got old systems in your house, it's a good idea to take the opportunity to go ahead and replace them if you can. So like and subscribe and even comment below and let us know what you'd like to see more of as we're going through the journey of the renovations of both my house and other projects.